Bam, back with another Portable Clint. All right, guys, here's the deal. I have another soldier on the front lines of Hollywood here with me today. I've known this guy for a long time, but I don't truly know him like I want to know him, and that's why he's here today. Guys, frontline fighter of Hollywood, dude. He's got the same amount of credits as I do. He and I are always at it and sticking to it. Ladies and gentlemen, PJ Marino.
Hoi, hoi.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
Okay, well, I'm looking here, right?
Yeah, you know what? You look whatever you want. This is the third guy having coffee with us, okay?
Okay.
So, you
Hello,
know, you
third
refer
guy.
to him, you not, you can ignore him, you may not like him, you may like him, I don't know. Okay, PJ.
Yes.
When,
It's good to see you, man.
Dude, always good to see you, man. Seriously, it's always good
Yeah,
when I see
yeah.
you. It truly is. When did you think about becoming an actor? When did the business start tingling at you?
Right. For me, I was in college. I was studying marketing.
So you're telling me
Yeah.
when you were 7 years old, you weren't watching TV going, I want
Oh
to do
yeah,
that?
yeah.
I
My
want to
big
know
thing-
that. I want to know that.
Okay. Well, I've always felt that my biggest inspirations when I was a kid was one, Bugs Bunny.
Okay.
Bugs Bunny, those cartoons were
Sure.
just hilarious.
Is there a particular Bugs Bunny, or I mean, is there a particular like Tex Avery is my favorite, or is it just Bugs Bunny?
I love Tex Avery, the Car of Tomorrow,
Sure,
and
yeah.
the Mother-in-Law. all that
Yes,
stuff.
just awesome.
But yeah, Bugs
Mike
Bunny.
Carlisle, that's for you, brother. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. And then as I got a little older, when I hit like 8, 9, 10 years old, it was Saturday Night Live. But more specifically, Eddie Murphy. Because Eddie Murphy in like 80, 81, I think, blew my mind. I thought he was the funniest thing.
So Eddie Murphy
Yeah.
got your attention, not John Belushi.
I
or Dan
love that
Aykroyd?
cast. I loved. Well, no, I wasn't watching it at that age. I was still a little too young.
How do you
I was
mind
born
if-
in '72.
Okay, I'm
So-
I was born in '69, so
Right, we're
that's the
close,
reason.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, but yeah, when I started watching it, it was Eddie Murphy, Joe Piscopo,
Sure.
Tim Kazurinsky.
I could see you liking Joe Piscopo.
I loved Piscopo. Loved, and his movies too, with Danny DeVito, Wise Guys. Yeah.
What happened to him?
He's still hanging around, working. He's got a really great son that I've met. It's a really
Really?
nice kid. Yeah, that's an actor.
I've
I don't
always
know
loved
really
that
what-
dude. I've always
yeah,
loved
yeah,
that. I
yeah.
always wonder what happens.
Yeah. Well, you know, he had a great run. He had SNL, he had movies, and then I guess it just kind of.
Do you think that Jim had anything to do with it?
Jim Belushi?
No, I
What?
feel like he.
Oh, the
bulked
gym.
up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he changed his look a lot.
He did,
So
he
I
did.
don't know if that had any.
But listen, we're not here to talk about him.
No,
we're
we're
here
not.
to talk about
no,
you.
but I love you, Joe.
Okay. Yeah,
and,
this is nothing to do. I love
yeah,
Joe.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just curious.
So Eddie Murphy, when he came out with Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood and Buckwheat, he did. Remember Buckwheat? I mean, those
course,
things just.
dude.
I mean,
when
and-
Buckwheat was shot, and they kept.
Yes,
they kept
yes,
Buckwheat,
yes, yes.
ladies and gentlemen, Buckwheat has been shot.
and then the skit where he played a white guy. Remember that?
Yes, and he got everything for free from the other white guys.
Blew my mind. And actually, I have a good friend that I was at his birthday party, and I'm just shooting the crap with these guys, and we're talking SNL, and I'm like, this is what I love about Hollywood too. So I'm talking to this one guy, my friend's brother, and I'm like, oh, my favorite one was this sketch with Eddie Murphy, and he's like, I wrote that one. I'm like,
Are you serious?
Yeah, so I was just like bowing, yeah. So it's like I love that about this town, where you meet the
love
people
this.
that created all the things we love growing up.
I was working on a set, and they said I'm hanging out with this girl for about 3 hours, and then I hear William Shatner's daughter is on the set.
Okay.
This was this is at the beginning of me being out here,
Okay, late '80s.
late '80s.
Yeah, you came on early.
Yeah,
dude.
and I go, hey, William Shatner's daughter's here. She goes, yeah, it's me, and she'd never talk to me again. I don't know why.
It's
It was
so funny.
weird. Yeah.
It's so funny meeting someone's like daughter or kid.
Yeah.
Like I remember going to a showcase one night and meeting John Cleese's daughter.
Okay.
And she was hilarious in the showcase. I don't know what she's doing now, but it's just so funny when you meet the people you love. Their kids. You know?
Yes. Okay. So.
Anyways, we digress.
We digress. So you're hanging out, you're watching cartoons,
Yeah.
you're saying I want to do Bugs Bunny's inspiring you.
Yes, and I was always the class clown.
Okay.
I loved making people laugh, and just I grew up in Little Italy in Boston, so I feel like the whole neighborhood it's just the funniest people you'll ever meet. That 1 square mile.
Yeah.
I mean, my friends are so much funnier than I am. I mean,
Really?
They're just hilarious. So I get inspired by them too. They're really a big inspiration. as
Okay,
well.
you go to college
Yeah.
And then when do you start thinking, man, you know what? Let me load up the car and move out to Hollywood. Was it Hollywood where you first started? Tell me
Yes.
about
Well,
it.
what happened was I had no intention of going into acting or anything, but I was going to Merrimack College in Massachusetts,
Okay.
and they had a program called cooperative education. And what
Okay.
that is you go to school for 4 months, and then you work for 4 months, and it keeps rotating until you finish. So every 4 months you have to interview for jobs. And you find out what you like. You do like real world experience. It was great, and I could pay for my tuition that way.
Okay.
I would save up. So, but every 4 months you have to interview and find a job, basically. So
Sort of like what we do out here.
yeah, pretty much. It
Have an
was
audition
was
every 4
preparing me.
months.
Yeah, really. Please don't remind me. So I was doing a co-op job as a mutual fund accountant,
Okay.
which is not what I wanted to do.
No,
I
it
figured
sounds.
that out really
I don't.
quickly.
I don't even want to hear the story
And then-
once
and
you
then-
say mutual co-op.
Well, yeah, one day I'm at the computer doing some report or something for the accountant, the other accountants, and the guy next to me, people are coming up to him and saying, "Hey, I saw your show last night. I really liked it. Great job." And he's like, "Oh, thanks." Finally, I turned to the guy and I'm like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Oh, I'm a comic."
Oh,
So I'm like, "Oh, really?" You know, and I had seen a couple of stand-up shows
Yeah.
back in the day, but it wasn't like a big. It wasn't a big deal for me. And then he said, I said to him, I think I could do that. You know, he's like, "Really?" You know, I'm sure he gets that all the time. So he's like, "You should do an open mic." I'm like, "Nah, I'm just messing around. I'm not really gonna do it." He's like, "Okay." And then after like a few days, I got to know him a little bit. One day he just comes in. He's like, "February 23rd." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I signed you up February 23rd, Monday night, Nick's Comedy Stop."
Would
He's
you
like,
have, would
and-
you have
and-
ever signed up if he didn't sign
Probably
you
not.
up?
Probably
Okay.
not. This guy changed my life.
Nice.
Completely. So he said, you have a few months. It was like a few months away. He's like, "You got to get like 5 minutes." So I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna try. I had nothing to lose,
Yeah.
And then that first night, it's Monday nights at Nick's in Boston were just they were kind of magical.
Sure.
I mean,
It sounds magical.
because of the guys that would hang out. It was back in the day when Dane Cook was first starting, Bob Marley, Bill Burr. I mean, all these guys were just like, Gary Goldman, guys that I just loved to death and were just hilarious. But the open mic, there was like maybe 50 people in the audience, and like 30 were my friends. That's
Wow,
how
okay,
that's how I
okay.
roll.
Awesome.
So of course,
It's great to have a great support group,
yes,
right?
yes, and of course, there's like 14 of us on the list. And where do you think they put me?
At the very end.
14th.
Yeah.
So I have to wait the whole.
Sure, which just makes it sweat.
Yes. And I remember
second-
going into the bathroom during that show. I'll never forget it. February 23rd, 1993. And I go in, and the guy that had gone on just before that was throwing up in the bathroom. He was so nervous about what
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man," So, but I was like, I wasn't that nervous. I was a little nervous, but I had I had prepared. And just going up there, I remember my first joke getting a laugh. And one of my friends in particular, this one friend, Marshall.
Do you remember the first joke?
I do.
Let me hear it.
I don't
Let me
remember
hear-
the exact
Let me
joke, but
hear-
I
let
remember
me hear
it
what
was
you
it was
got.
something about going into the waters for a swim in the Atlantic Ocean,
Yeah.
and it was so cold that you have shrinkage.
Right, sure.
And then I went in like Long John Silver, and I came out like Pee Wee Herman, and I did a Pee Wee Herman. It was terrible. It was terrible. But it got a laugh.
Sure,
And I
sure,
remember
sure,
my friend Marshall Parker. Shout out to Marshall in Boston. Everybody laughed. Marshall's like, out of all the funnies, he's the funniest. Like he
Okay.
was one of my funniest friends. A little bit older than I was. So after everybody laughed, and then it calmed down, I just heard Marshall go, "PJ's a sick kid." Like I heard him very like low under his breath.
Yeah,
"PJ's
yeah,
a
yeah,
sick
yeah,
kid."
yeah.
So I just love that feeling of getting
yep,
that laugh.
Yep.
And I remember I had on a loose sweater, and I kept pulling up my sweater nervously during the whole set.
Sure.
But I just loved it. And then over the next few years, I just went up as much as I could. I just kept doing stand-up, and then I finally started getting paid and started, going around New England and booking little. That was my first taste, but I still didn't want to be an actor.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
I was just like, it was just something fun to do while I was in college. And then after I graduated from college, I started interviewing for little jobs here and there, for like marketing, management, things like that. And I realized I hate all this stuff. I hate it.
Yeah.
And then my
I
friends
do too.
one of my friends like, you should do a play or something. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should try a play to see if I like it. I was working in a coffee shop.
Okay.
I was always working in a restaurant or a coffee shop growing up in Boston. So I remember and back then you just basically called a line called Stage Source in Boston, and they would give all the audition announcements.
Oh.
You would get
Okay.
the info on like an answering machine,
Was it a free phone call?
free.
Okay.
And then you would get what you. and
So
then you
it's
would submit your
basically
headshot.
Backstage West on the phone.
Yes. So I remember my first audition was like some weird play, and I didn't get it, and I was like, fine. But my second audition was for a play called Toast.
Okay.
And it was at a really nice theater in the South End called the Center Theater Group.
Okay.
Is that what it was called? No, that's in LA. Boston
We have
Center
fact
for
checkers. We have fact checkers. They're going to check everything out.
Boston Center for the Arts was the name of the
Okay.
was the name of the group or something. And I did a play. It was called Toast, and it was a really nice role, and the cast was wonderful. And I remember my very first performance. I was nervous. My character comes in like kind of midway, and I profess my love for this woman who's a hooker.
Okay.
And I'm very endearing, my character. I'm like
Sure.
very naive and endearing. And I remember my line, I get tied up to a chair by one of the other guys, and then she's in love with the other guy. And one of my lines is just, I love you, to her. Very simple line, nothing, but I just played it earnestly, like I was deeply in love with her and in pain.
Right.
And I just said, I love you, and the whole crowd laughed. The whole crowd.
Why do you
And I
think-
wasn't trying to be funny.
Okay, why did they laugh? What do you think it was?
The naivete and the ignorance that I had. That like, dude, you're not. This woman does not love you. She's a hooker. They're about to kill you.
Yes.
Nobody
okay.
cares about you.
Yes.
So, in that moment, just getting that laugh, that was my moment. I was like, I love this.
Yes.
I was hooked, and that was it. I was like, okay, because
I
I was
know that
basically
moment.
I was judging my that experience, that play, as is this something I want to do or not?
Right.
If that play was a bad experience, I never would have gone into that. So what was your moment? I haven't heard about you. Well,
No. I just remember
Yeah.
being in a junior high play, and it was we had to have music on in the background, and the music wouldn't start, and so I would just stand in front of the audience waiting for the music to start. That uncomfortableness. I started kind of like goofing off and just cracked up the whole crowd, and I made everyone laugh. I'm like, okay,
Junior high.
yes, that's what I want.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
And that's how it is, like with stand up too.
Yeah,
just getting that laugh.
yeah.
And
Okay.
that time when I started stand up, I mean, the talent that was going around, young, starting out in the early '90s. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Yeah.
Okay, when do you start thinking about moving to Hollywood?
So that was 1996 when I did that play. I had graduated in the year before. So I was just looking for a job, and I was doing stand-up. I was doing a lot at Nick's Comedy Stop. They were letting me, like Mike Clark was the guy. He's still around today. You know, he books the acts. He was letting me host, and they had 2 rooms upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
So they were doing 2 shows, so they needed people filling in. So I would kind of bounce around on the weekends. He was giving me a little bit of money every week. It was like my first time getting paid. I was hosting and then enjoying it. I was working in a coffee shop. And then I decided after that play I wanted to do more, so I did it. I actually got 2 more films that summer, and that's when I was like, okay, I really want to do this.
Okay.
And so I just saved up as much money as I could that summer, and then I met on the one independent film that I did. I met a friend of mine, Eric Casaccio, in this film called Bender.
Bender?
It's really. It didn't, it never really got shown, but it was a good experience. It was great people. But he said he wanted to move to LA, so he's like, let's do it. So I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. It was very like,
How old were
I
you?
ride the wave.
What's the age?
I was 90. I was 24.
24. You and this dude
Yeah.
that you met on Bender
Yeah.
roll into town. Where's the first apartment?
He was a great roommate because he went out first to LA just to look for an apartment for us.
Yeah.
And he found us an apartment.
Where?
In Palms, right near Culver City on Bagley. Just right up from Main Street, right
Okay.
around the corner from where now
Okay.
it's Culver City.
Yeah. It
So
is
he
beautiful.
found the apartment. It was 2-bedroom. I think it was $800, $800 or $850. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And he found it in like that fall, I think. And then we just decided January we're moving.
So you move in. How do you find an agent? Who teaches you how to find an agent?
I didn't know many people. I had one friend of a friend, my uncle's good friend, who was a writer. He basically said, come over, we'll talk. You meet my family. And his name is Frank Renzulli. And he wrote first. And he told me at the time when I met him, he's like, I'm working on this new show. It's about the mob. I'm like, oh, that's great. I'm like, what's it called? He's like, Sopranos. I'm like, oh
Really?
yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah. So, but he was my first contact out here, and he got me my first agent. And I remember her name was Patricia De Niro.
Okay, wait. How did he get you that agent? Did
He
you
just
make-
called her and said, "Hey, my buddy's here. My friend's nephew. You should see him."
Did you think there was any relation between the De
No, well,
Niros?
that's the first thing I asked her.
Well,
and
I'm sure she
said
gets
no.
asked that
Yeah,
all
she
the
gets all the
time.
time. But I was so excited. Her name was De Niro.
Okay, what's the first gig you book?
I didn't get anything through her. I think I was with her for about 3 or 4 months, and then
Yeah.
I jumped to an agency called JS Represents for commercials. Remember them? They were around for a long time.
JS Represents?
Yeah, for a long time.
That's their whole name?
Yes, I think his name was John something with an S, Strodehyde or something.
Okay, who did you book it? What was your
I
first
booked a
gig?
commercial.
Which one?
It was for Coors original. Coors Light. It was the Hey Bear Man. Remember Hey Bear Man?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I do a spot. It was in this was in early '98. Was my
Okay.
first spot. I was working at Houston's restaurant.
Sure, which one?
In Century City.
I love that one.
A great gig. I did it for 5 years. Met some amazing people. Met
bet.
all my friends. I mean, it was a party. You know, and hard work. Made a lot of money, but very grateful for that gig. So and I remember when my first day at Houston's, meeting all the guys and the women there, and them saying and asking, how long have you been here? Well, how long have you been here? And one person was like, oh, I've been here 2 years. Oh, I've been here 3 years. Oh, I've been here, a year and a half. And I'm like, I'm going to be out of here in like 6 months. I'm gonna book a pilot, right?
Right,
I'm going to book
yeah,
a pilot.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not going to be
yeah.
here for more than a year.
Sure.
And they all gave me that look like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, good luck with
Yeah,
that,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
That's
and
what
then,
we
and
said.
Then, and then a little over a year being in LA, I get an audition for Costello, which is a pilot looking for Boston accents.
Okay.
And of course, someone tells me, hey, you should. I only heard because a friend told me, hey, you should submit to this pilot. I saw a thing. They're auditioning people from Boston. All the Boston comics are auditioning for it. So I literally just put my headshot in an envelope, threw it in a mailbox to Deb Barilski.
Okay.
And I hadn't had any TV auditions yet.
Okay.
So I get the audition. She calls me in
How does she call you in?
from my headshot that I put. in the
Okay,
mail.
I know. Did she call an agent?
No,
Did she
directly
call
to
you
me.
direct? Okay.
I didn't have a theatrical agent. All I
Okay.
had was a commercial
Okay.
agent. 'Cause I had left De Niro because I just wasn't getting any auditions.
Sure,
and I was
sure.
just, I'm just,
Okay.
And I still have. I think I may have still even have my pager at that time.
Really?
Yeah. You had,
okay.
When I first came, I had the
of course,
pager.
Of course,
you know?
yeah.
So she calls me in, and she's immediately like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna call you back." Because my accent was, I was the guy.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was South Boston, so I wasn't necessarily Irish, but otherwise I was exactly the guy they wanted. So at the call, I get to the callback, and there's just a ton of actors, and there's guys I love, no one loved from like movies, and I'm like, and it was my first TV audition. I had no idea what I was doing.
Did you cast yourself out of it because you saw all these people that you already saw on TV? You're thinking,
No, because of my stand-up.
Yeah.
I had such big, you know.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to use bad words on camera, but I was so confident that I didn't care, and I had an acting coach that had coached me, and I was so, you know, he's such an amazing acting coach, Aaron Spicer at the time. He was like, "Oh, this is yours. This is yours. Just do your thing." And I was like, "Okay." And I had my comedic timing. I had my stage presence from that. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't really afraid to audition.
PJ, let me ask you
Yeah.
something, because this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Do you still have, as you were saying, those huevos, if you will?
Yeah. Huevos.
Yeah,
Is that the
huevos.
word? Huevos.
Do you still have those? I know you do, but
I do,
do you?
yeah.
But do you? Are they? Is
I
your
always-
confidence level
yes.
still as high as
Yes,
it was
yes.
when
I mean,
you rolled in?
I have moments where, especially if I don't feel like the role is right for me, then I'm not as confident. I'm still confident I'm going to go in and do my thing.
Yeah.
But especially now, I'm like, this is not my role. I go in thinking either this is my role or it's not my role. And when it's not, I still have fun because it's still staying sharp and going in and
Right,
respect
right,
the room
right.
and respect
Yeah.
the process. But there are just times where I'm like, I'm not gonna get this, you know. And I know you shouldn't do that. You're supposed to. You never know what they want, you know.
No, yeah, well, that is true.
But when I go in and I think, oh, this is my role, I'm just like, I go in like I'm the guy. I'm the guy, so this is right. And I know I'm just gonna have fun, and for that moment, I am that guy. I'm
Yeah.
like playing the character, and I'm doing it.
Okay, here's
Yeah.
something that I like to ask.
Yes.
How many false starts do you think you've had in this business? Because you've been
yeah,
at it since
yeah.
what year? What year?
I came out in '97.
So 97.
Yeah. Arrived January 10th, 1997.
Okay. How many false starts? That's 30 years, right? Or
20
years.
over 20 years, yeah.
Over 20 years.
Yeah.
How many false starts do you feel like I'm about to make it?
You know, for me, when you say make it, you mean like book the gig that gets you to the next level, basically.
Okay, well,
Because I
That's-
honestly, just from getting that first job, like I booked Costello. I booked it. I had like 4 callbacks.
awesome.
And it was a crazy process, and I thought that's how every process was, but it was just it was for Disney, it was for Disney owned it. It was called Wing Dancer. They had done Home Improvement, and Sue Costello was like their next, and they had done Roseanne.
Okay.
And Sue Costello was like their next Roseanne,
Okay.
and I ended up booking it. Had great chemistry with her, and you know.
I'm sorry, who was the lead? Who was the
Sue
lead?
Costello. She's still around. She does stand up. She's still kicking
Okay,
butt in New York, I think.
okay.
But after that, I was like, I can do this. I can do it. It was my first TV audition in Boston. I forgot to tell you, in Boston, my first commercial audition, I booked a national commercial in Boston for Nike with Ken Griffey.
Awesome.
So I was that guy. And then I come to LA. So I got into the union in '96.
Okay.
And then I did the 2 movies, and then I moved to LA. So I was very
So,
lucky.
okay.
Like, it was meant to be.
And that helps you with
Yes.
your confidence big time. Oh,
Yes.
this is going to be easy. This
And then
is
I booked my
great.
first TV, and then I go back to Houston's, and I go in, and they start hearing about this pilot I booked for Fox.
Did you
And they're
quit?
like,
I'm
"Holy
sorry,
shit, he
wait.
did it!"
Did you quit then come
No,
back?
no. Actually, Houston's was giving me problems for taking time off because I had it was a 7-day acting gig.
Sure. Okay.
And they were like, we can't cover all your shifts. I'm like, well, I'm doing it. Acting is. I told them acting is first.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we're going to suspend you if you don't show up for your shift. So I was like, I'm sorry,
Okay.
and I was very respectful because I love the job, but I said, like, I'm sorry, but I came here to act.
Yeah,
and then they suspended me for a week.
Houston.
And the week they suspended me, I was on set.
There you go, dude.
Yeah.
That's great. I
And then
love
when I
that
came
one.
back,
They all heard, and
Yeah.
how did they treat you?
they were very happy for me, but they were like, oh my God, he actually booked the pilot like he said he would. And
Were
then,
they happy for you?
Yes, they were. I had great friends, and we all supported each other, you know.
Yeah.
But then, I was like, now that's it. I'm gonna be on the show, and I'm gonna be recurring. It was recurring, you know.
Okay.
And then cut to at Houston's. When you're there 5 years, they give you a jacket, a Houston jacket, and that was also something that the people, the staff hated because it showed that they had been there 5 years.
Yeah, man.
So here's me saying I'm gonna be gone. I booked this pilot. Cut to 5 years later, I'm putting on the jacket, and everybody's going, congratulations, Petey, you got your jacket, you know? So it was just hilarious. But after I got my jacket, like a few months later, I just was like, I have to quit and just focus on acting.
Did you ever turn down auditions because you were too
Never.
scared to call in sick, or that you had to
Never.
call in and change?
Never missed one audition.
Really?
Never.
Okay.
It was always, acting was always first but I was fortunate. Once I started booking commercials here and there, that paid off my credit cards really fast, like 99, 2000, before the strike.
Yeah.
And I had no debt, and I saved up as much as I could. I was very smart with my money, didn't blow it on much, you know. So when I knew that if I couldn't work much, I just had some savings, you know. But I was lucky to book commercials. If I hadn't booked commercials, then, you know, I wouldn't have that side money.
Okay, I'm going to ask this question. I'm
Yeah.
going to ask it twice. And I
Yeah.
should have asked it at the very beginning. When you moved down here, what is it that you wanted to achieve? When you moved out here, what is it?
Honestly, my goal was just to work and to make a living.
Okay,
make a living.
now,
Yeah.
over 20 years later, what is the goal? And you're not allowed to say to continue working.
Right.
What is it that you
And I did,
want?
and it's funny, I was thinking about that on my way in because I know you asked this question. But initially, too, besides just wanting to make a living, the goal was always like sitcom, 7 years. 7-year sitcom.
Right,
Which
right.
now, 7 years is so rare.
Yeah.
Now I would say my goal right now is I've been writing a lot and I've been doing really well with my writing. So my goal is to be on a show 5 years that I create, that I work on with my wife. And we have a pilot that we're trying to do.
Your wife is also an actress.
Yes,
Tell me
yes.
about her really quick. Well, I don't
Yes.
usually bring in
Sure.
other people,
Sure.
but
Sure.
I want to because your
Sure.
wife is very supportive of
Very
the show.
supportive.
She's supportive of you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about her for a second. She's an actress.
She is. She's a wonderful actress.
Did you meet her out here?
I did. I met her in 2007 through a friend's birthday party.
What's her name?
Her name is Tessa Monroe.
Okay. And how is she doing with acting?
She's, like me. I mean, we both struggle to get auditions, and it's hard on her when she doesn't book jobs because she gets out a lot. But she still works a lot, and she's got some, always has something coming up. But we want to get big gigs. We want to make big, we want to get the gig that takes us to the next level.
Would you ever be jealous if she booked a gig and you didn't?
Oh, it's half my money. And when I work, it's half her money.
That is
No,
true.
we're very supportive. We have never been competitive, never.
Over 20
And it's so great having each other to self-tape and to work on scenes and to coach each other.
Tell me your 3 biggest gigs that you love. Tell me about the 3 feathers in your hat.
See, for me, I've booked so many little jobs, over the years, and I've booked lots of guest stars. The one that I probably was most excited about, probably my best year was 06.
Okay,
06,
why?
I was just, 05 into 06, I booked, over that year period, I booked 5 commercials. And for me, that was a lot.
Sure.
And I had a bunch of years where I had 2 running, but never more than 2. But for some reason, I just got hot. And in 04, I almost quit. I was having a really bad year in 04.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Why? Because you just weren't getting out, or
from
blows to the business?
In 02 is when I quit Houston's, and I decided I'm just going to focus on acting and not do anything else, and use my savings, live off my savings. And I switched agents. I went to KMR. It was Kazarian Spencer.
Sure.
And I forget who the actual agent was at the time, but I had I had a great year. I immediately booked bang, 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 bang. I booked a Coors commercial with Kid Rock. Booked, I think, a Porsche commercial. I booked a bunch of TV. So I was having a great year, which I was like, okay, I did the right thing. I quit. I'm focusing.
Yeah.
And in 03, great year. And then I hit a dry spell. 04, like really bad, where I was not auditioning at all.
And when you hit your first dry spell,
it was my first
really
bad
rocks you.
Yes.
It rocks you hard.
Yes, it was a bad dry spell, and the thing was, I was worried about having to get a job. I'm like, well, I have to get a side job. And
why were you worried about getting a side job? Just because you had to
earnings,
go to work, or because people used to see you on TV? Now they're going to see you in a restaurant.
No, I didn't really care much about that. I mean, it bugs you a little bit, but I was just worried my savings were dwindling, and I just didn't want to I didn't want to go into debt.
Sure. Okay.
So I wanted to just keep making money, basically.
Okay. So how do you get your comeback? Is it something you did different to get a comeback?
I don't know if you'd call it different, but basically I was interviewing for bartending jobs.
Okay.
And I had just interviewed for a job in Brentwood at Brentwood Lounge, and I can't remember if they technically offered me the job, but it went really well, and I think they were going to offer me the bartending job, and I was like I think they offered it to me, and I was telling friends I think I have to take it. And they're like, don't take it, just keep going. And then
were you dreading that they were about to offer?
I was so dreading. I did not want to do it.
See, I'm dreading right now just hearing this. But go ahead.
And then I submitted for a play at the Mark Taper Forum.
Oh, nice. Okay.
It was a play called The Talking Cure. It was written by Christopher Hampton, who had won an Oscar for Dangerous Liaisons. Sure. Directed by Gordon Davidson, who is like the godfather of LA theater. Amazing. It was his last play he would direct.
Wow.
Yeah. He was around for a while, but he was retiring, basically.
Okay.
And they called me in. I put in the mail, and they called me in, and it was just 3 of us at the audition. And I think they just hired me because I was the biggest guy. Because basically the role was a very small role.
I don't think they just hire somebody at Mark Taperson Theater just because they're...
This is what it was, because it was kind of glorified background, but I had like one line, and it was like moving furniture around, but I was on stage a lot.
Maybe you're right.
Right, I was on it was my character had to basically move a lot of the scenery to transition to different scenes.
Yeah.
And then also the opening was the most important. The opening was a big fight scene. Like the play opened with myself and the lead actress bursting through the door, which was awesome, and having a fight scene. And then she would bite me, and then I would get her, and I would tie her up, and then the play would start. It was her in this institution.
All right, that's pretty cool.
It's a beautiful play. It ended up becoming a movie called The Dangerous Method. A Dangerous Method.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, but booking that, I booked it, and I remember Gordon Davidson just looking at my resume, because the interview, I had to also understudy one other role. So the audition was basically an interview, and then that scene of the other role. The other role was an SS officer, a German officer.
Okay.
Shooting the. It was like a flashback scene. So, but the audition, Gordon Davidson just looks at my resume, and he's like, okay. You haven't done much theater. I'm like, well, I do a lot of TV. I go, but I love theater, and I just did a play. I had done it like 6 years ago, and I was telling him about that. Sure. And he's like, what is this here, Bella Napoli? That was the thing that I had done that I wrote. I wrote a sitcom, and I put it up on stage for 2 nights. I wrote 2 episodes, and I cast it, and I performed it. And I invited industry because I wanted to. It was my way of trying to get my own sitcom. And he said, "What is this?" And I said, I told him I wrote it, I directed it, I starred in it." He's like, "Oh, that's really interesting." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. It was fun." And then they cast me. So that was my job. I didn't take the bartending.
Nice, dude.
Because it was a great pay. It was $900 a week for 9 weeks.
Okay, so you're telling me that was the start of your comeback?
Yes. And I don't know if that did anything to my auditions.
It had to.
Sorry, it probably does. And then in 2005, I started booking commercials.
PJ, you know what I'm learning about you through all of this is that you're a hustler.
Yes.
Have you always been a hustler?
Yeah,
Is that a Boston trait, you think?
I think my neighborhood, we're very blue collar, hard workers. Yeah, I mean, and I just love, I love the business, and I love, sending postcards, sending emails, doing workshops were huge for me. So that's how I got a lot of my first co-star.
Really?
Workshops.
Now
and it gets a lot of flack, but I mean, workshops were fantastic.
Workshops, meaning you going in and reading in front of casting directors.
Because I would tell my friends, if you're trying to break into the business with TV roles, right? A lot of my friends would go into class and work on these, you know, Beyond Therapy, Boy's Life, you know, all these really amazing plays, and that's great. But those are like 3-point shots. Why don't you start with the layup?
Yeah.
When you go to workshop, you're doing a scene that they're going to cast you in.
Yeah.
And you're meeting the casting directors.
Yeah.
So instead of doing only class, I was doing class for a while, and then I stopped class, and then was doing one workshop every week for like 2 years. And I started getting tons of co-star roles. And meeting all the assistants that would become the head casting directors.
What's the last thing you did that you hustled? What's the last hustle thing you did?
I mean, I just did Barry. That was really amazing.
Okay, well,
And-
we'll talk about that in a second.
yeah.
I'm talking about what
That
did
was
you
through
do
a hustle.
It was through a hustle?
Well, I mean, we just shot a movie that I wrote.
I know, but I want to know, like, what you personally did. What hustle action did you do to what's the last thing you just did?
I mean, I just did a couple emails last night to looking for like a literary agent.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I read something in on Deadline, or if I hear about somebody that might be like a fit that maybe they would take me on, I'll look them up, email them, maybe send a postcard, something like that.
Okay.
I'm always doing that.
Tell me the three things. One, what was the three jobs? Your three feathers in your cap.
Okay, so
that you're
3
most
feathers.
proud of?
So it's hard because I did a movie in 06. My big year was
Okay.
my favorite year. I made the most money I've ever made.
Nice.
Which has to change, but and it will. But no, that year I had commercials running, and then I saw a breakdown, which I heard about a breakdown. I didn't see it, because we're not supposed to get the
Yeah,
breakdown.
yeah, right,
but I heard
right,
about a
exactly.
breakdown for a movie called Everybody Wants to Be Italian,
Okay.
and I did not know the casting director. Her name is Lisa Hamill.
Okay.
And I read the breakdown, and I'm like, oh my God, this is me. The guy, it was a supporting role of a guy that grew up in my neighborhood in the north end of Boston. So I'm like, well, I am the guy. I have to go in on this. So I sent her a postcard. Didn't hear anything. Heard from friends that they were having auditions. Found her number. I don't even know how I found her number. Called her up. I think I may have emailed her first. Emailed her, nothing, right?
Right.
Finally, I called her. She answers the phone. She's like, yes. I'm like, I tell her it's PJ Marino, and she's like, she knew exactly who I was. She's like, you can't do this. You can't call me. This is not how things are done.
Is she saying it
She's
in a
upset.
friendly way?
No, still not like, she was
Okay,
respectful,
okay.
but she was very upset.
Okay.
She's like, you can't do this. I'm like, Lisa, I am the guy. This is my role. You have to see me. She's like, okay. I will call you in. You are the last person I'm seeing. I'm calling you in last. So, and I knew that they were having
dig the
auditions.
story, man.
And I basically told her, look, if you don't call me in, I'm going to crash it. I'm going to crash it. It was that kind of role. So I go in, she sees me last. And I book it.
When you walk into the room, she's going, oh, so here's Mr.
Yeah, she's
PJ
like, hello.
Marino."
Yeah. And still to this day, we're friends, and she's like,
Awesome,
she's
dude.
one of my favorite casting directors. She's a sweetheart.
It's whenever those actors take that extra step, do that extra thing.
And you have to be tactful. I mean, but and I don't do that all the time. It's
Right.
when it's right. It's like,
it
I
just
did
has-
it. I did it last year for a role where I was like, I am the guy. It was a Boston accent priest for a
Okay.
new sci-fi show, and I couldn't get in. Casting thought I was too old. The role was 40.
What's the second gig? Second favorite?
gig. The second one that comes to mind is Ghost Voyage,
Okay.
because it was the first time that I got hired for a job outside the country.
Outside the
was-
what?
the country.
Oh,
It was in-
okay.
it was
I
in
got you.
Bulgaria.
Okay.
And I was already having my best year, and it was like late November. So
this
things
is
start to
just
wind
cherries
down,
on top.
and then. And the reason why I got this job was because I had done a short film. I wrote a short film. A friend of mine directed it, Eric Sheely, great guy. And he recommended this woman to play the role opposite me. I wrote it for me to star in, obviously. And after doing that short, it's called the Dark Bar.
Yeah.
And she was also casting. I didn't know she was also casting. She was casting Ghost Voyage, so she calls me in for Ghost Voyage after we had done this short, and I spend, we put a lot of our own money. We spend I think I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 of our own money, and then doing that led to Ghost Voyage. And then she called, and I booked, and I literally went in. It was a very short audition, and it was like the next week they're like, we're casting you. You have to be available to go to Bulgaria for a month.
Awesome.
So I go, and it was just the best, and it was so much fun.
PJ, I have heard so many good things come out of actors who do short films.
Yes.
A
You
lot
have to
of
keep
people-
working and meet people.
Yeah, and a lot of people go, I'm not doing a short film, but so many good things come out of short films.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to keep working.
Third thing, is it Barry? Is the Barry your
Um,
third cherry? Because that was a great part, dude.
I'm so excited about Barry because I love the show. It's like
Yeah,
my
dude,
favorite
it's a great show.
I literally, and again with the emails, but I don't recommend that every actor emails every casting director. But Sherry Thomas is someone that I've known since Costello. She was like the assistant on
Really?
Deborah Milski on Costello. So and whenever she calls me in, it's not like all the time, but when she calls me in, it's always a good role for me. And she always, she works with me to get it right.
Yeah.
She's just amazing. She's one of my favorite casters. So I literally I saw that they had just started casting season 2 for Barry.
You heard that they just
I
started.
saw a breakdown for
You heard?
No. This is legit. I saw on LA Casting they were looking for background,
I got you.
which is good to know because I'm like, oh, they're starting to cast season
Sure.
2. That's how you know when they're starting cast, and you see who, and then you look up who's casting it. So I literally just PM'd Sherry, which don't always do that, guys, but I PM'd Sherry and just said, Sherry, I love Barry. I would love to be on Barry any role. And that was it. That was like the whole email. It was very short. And she just wrote back, okay. So she called me in for episode 1, and I didn't book it, thank God, because it was like a role that died really fast.
Okay.
But and then she called me in for episode 8, and she only called in like I think 5 people. And it's a kind of role. I'm sure all of us could have been great in the role, but
Yeah.
it was just my role to get. And
You were great in it.
thank
you
you.
were good.
Thank
you were
yeah.
really
And-
good.
And they
in
don't
it.
let you know what it is until like they sent me the sides the night before.
Really?
My call time was like 6 a.m. But it was there were short lines. It was a pretty easy role. So.
Okay, so after
yeah.
over 20 years, what's the best time? Wait, what's the worst time? Was it 04 during your first dry spell, or did you go through anything else?
04 was really rough. Like where I remember literally walking through Michael's for some reason, the craft shop,
Sure,
looking for
sure,
something
yeah,
to buy,
yeah.
a scrapbook or something,
Yeah.
and being on the phone with a friend of mine, Patrick Gallo, whom I love to death, like one of my favorite actors. He's in New York now. But I talked to him for like maybe an hour, and it was just basically him talking me off the ledge, like, you can't quit, Mo, you can't quit, you can't do it. I'll be very upset if you quit. Like an hour and a half, and then after that I just say, okay, I can't quit. So
Thank God
that
for those friends. We all have that friend,
I was
Steven Ramirez.
And then I also had like a meltdown at one audition where I thought, oh my God, they're never gonna call me in again. I had such a bad, putting too
Yeah.
much pressure on yourself to do.
Yeah.
And then like 2 weeks later, they
Last
call me
night.
in for another role and I book it. It's like you can't beat yourself up.
What have you learned in this business? Well, 2 things.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of acting advice that you've learned?
I truly had an epiphany. I would say about I don't know 4 or 5 years ago, where you don't have to be perfect. Like if it's your role, it's just your role, and you just got to do your thing, and if it's your role, it'll be your role. Because I was at an audition and a friend of mine was going in before me, and when you can hear the audition. Which I
Yes,
hate when you
yeah,
can hear
I
the
hate
whole.
it, dude.
I hate it.
Hate it.
I usually just walk away, but he's a good friend of mine, and it was
Especially when especially when you go in the room and knowing that you know people
Yes.
who are going to hear your audition.
Yes.
Okay.
So I hear it, and he's a really, really good actor, works all the time, and he goes in, it's for a pilot, and I hear him, and I'm like, I don't really like that choice, I'm like, that wasn't that, and he was kind of struggling, and when he came out, I gave him a hug, and I'm like, oh, that didn't really go that great, and then I went in and I crush it. And I generally have I'm usually great in the room. That's why
Sure.
I work. I'm
Yeah.
really good in the room. I'm very confident. I love auditioning, and I crush it. And I didn't get it, and he books it, and because it was his role,
Right.
they knew he could do it.
Right.
And he was and they worked with him, and it was just his. And that's the thing is just do your thing. You don't have to beat yourself up. And I have had a flub.
That's easier
and
said
still
than
booked.
done.
It is. But you have to know that you are enough. What you do is enough. It's
If you go into an audition and you mess up one word,
yeah.
do you go home thinking that you sucked at that audition? Have you done that?
Oh yeah, I've done that. I think every actor has done that. You go in the car and you look in the rearview mirror and you start doing like that line you should have done.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
start, oh, this improv. That was the best improv. You think of it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, the whole audition was great. It's just that one line that you
Yeah,
messed
I
up.
mean-
That's the only thing you're focusing on.
No, I mean, one word. One word I don't use it. But I mean, I do. It does stick with you for a while.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
oh man, I missed that.
So
So you know what you have to do? This is a good thing for actors. If you have one line that's your toughest line that you hate, make that. I got this from my wife Tessa, who I think she got it from Larry Moss, who I know people have talked about.
Yeah, I love him.
But if you have the line you hate the most, make that the line that you love the most. Make that your favorite line.
That's
and
good.
that gets you through that line.
That's good.
It's a really great piece of advice.
Yeah. Is there a word that you can't pronounce? There's always like a word I can't pronounce.
I have trouble when a word that goes into the. If a certain word, like if it ends in a th and goes into the, because I lisp sometimes, and I have to and I have to go. Well, do I try to get it out clearly, and then I sound like I'm talking too slow and it's stale, or do I just speed through it like I do normally? But then it doesn't sound. One of my things is talking too fast, so I have to always remind myself slow down.
Yeah.
But yeah, when th is for me. What is it for you?
Any word that's long. Okay, wait, really quick. Long words suck.
I hate lines.
No, so do I.
I hate when I have I got booked directly for General Hospital.
Okay.
And thankfully it was a time when I was doing a play, and I've only done like 3 plays in 20 years, but I love it.
It sounds like you've done a lot of plays, and now
3
you're only
plays,
telling me 3.
right? But
Wow,
I did a play called Harbor, and at the time, and then Mark Teschner, bless his soul, direct books me for General Hospital. Okay. And usually when I get direct booked, it's like 3 lines.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, it'll be something easy. You go in and it's like a cop or something. And it was a cop. And I get the sides and it's like 9 pages and it's like monologue. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I was sharp because of the play, and I went and I crushed it.
Nice, PJ.
Yeah.
Okay, really quick, we're going to start winding down.
Okay.
George Griffith.
Yes.
What do you know? Let
me tell you how I know George.
Okay, go
because
ahead.
of the short that I did.
Yeah.
With Eric Sheely.
Because of his short.
He was friends with George.
Yeah.
He introduced me to George through Eric. I met George, and George actually helped edit the short.
Okay.
So because of that short, I met George, and then that's how I got From the Head.
Right. He and I both did a movie together.
And
called
by the way,
Head.
From the Head is such a beautiful movie, and
Awesome movie.
you are amazing in it.
Well, thank you.
Your
so
character
are you.
breaks my heart.
Oh, thank you.
I fell in love with you in that.
I loved that movie, man. I really did. I loved the whole thing. All the rich characters.
Yes.
Everyone
and it's
in there.
it's so beautiful on the big screen. That movie.
Yeah,
He
man.
shot it on 16 millimeter. Go find it and go see it, guys.
PJ.
Yeah.
Anything else I need to know about you?
I'm just happy to be here and happy to be in the game and be part of it.
PJ, you are in the game, dude.
Yeah.
You're well loved in this business. The character actor community is a great community, isn't it? We all support one another. We all believe in it. We're always rooting for each other.
Absolutely.
And dude, I'm always rooting for you. I mean
Likewise,
that, dude.
likewise.
I mean that.
I was just looking at your reels last night and looking at some of your older stuff, and I love the CSI where you play the lawyer. I gotta play a lawyer, man.
You haven't played a lawyer
Never
yet?
played a lawyer. No, but I love that was so much fun.
Yeah, I could totally
You're
see
like
you being
poor choice of words. Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Okay, PJ.
Yes, sir.
One last favor.
Yes, sir.
Will you tell everybody bye?
Ciao.